Hey there, I'm Anna Drake Warshaw with the UIA, and I'm here with Courtney Moody, who is an online student at the University of Central Florida. And she has agreed to talk with us about her advice for being a successful online learner. Courtney, thank you so much for being with us and taking the time to talk. Can you tell us just a little bit about you? Where are you from? What are you studying? And how long have you been learning online?
I have been doing online or at-home learning basically my whole life. I was homeschooled all the way from the beginning up to high school, and I've only taken three face-to-face classes in college. My community college, for my AA, was all mostly online, and my whole time at UCF has been online, and this is actually my last semester. I am graduating with a degree in creative writing.
Congratulations. This is a very big semester to be finishing, though I guess maybe you're affected a little bit less in terms of your commencement ceremonies if you've been planning for an online end of your degree rather than in person. So, given your experience with online learning, can you tell me maybe what advice you would give yourself if you were to start learning online from the beginning again? What you know now that maybe you didn't know then?
Yeah, basically just don't be afraid to reach out to your professors. I had an old ballet teacher who always told us, don't walk into a dark alley. And basically what that was he would show us what we were supposed to do, and we wouldn't quite understand it or remember it, but we wouldn't ask questions. So we'd go to do it and we'd do it totally wrong, and he'd stop us and tell us, I'm here. Ask me questions. Don't walk into the dark alley. You don't know where you're going. Ask me questions. Walk in the light. And I think that applies to college too. You read the assignment, something seems unclear, don't guess. Email the professor and tell them, hey, I don't get this. The worst thing that can happen is they say, hey, that was in the syllabus. Go read it. Why didn't you read the syllabus? But even then, you still got your answer.
That's great advice. Thanks for that. So, what about managing your time? I know this is probably something you've learned how to do really well. How did you learn how to do that, and what advice do you have for students who are used to having their time a little more structured for them because they had to go to class and then come back and then maybe had separate time to work?
Really prioritizing. We use Canvas, so I like to set Canvas's dashboard to the due date format, and I say, okay, what is due first? Because the thing that's due Tuesday, I need to be working on before the thing that's due on Saturday. My only exception is if I have a project like this week, I have a big analysis of a poetry collection. So I know that's a big project. I'm going to need to devote a little bit of time to that every day. But I also have assignments due today. So I need to get that done before I work on anything else. I have a quiz that's due, but that doesn't open until Thursday. That needs to go in the back of the mind. It's not a priority right now. It's getting what is due first done first. And then you have a little more time to work on the other things. And then keeping that on a list is nice because when you cross it off, you feel really good that you got it done. So it kind of empowers you to keep going.
I definitely know that feeling. I understand. Thanks. That's another great piece of advice. What are some of the other struggles or challenges that you remember? And maybe they're not even that long ago that you've had to figure out how to get through as an online or distance learner.
The thing I always run into every single semester at the start is even though we use one online platform, every professor structures their class differently. Some person you access the assignments through the assignments page, someone puts it through the modules page, and you have to really figure out, okay, who puts what where, especially when you're taking 3 or 4 classes and every professor structures it differently. Some structure them with a nice little to-do list every week, and you can just work down that list. Others, you're going to have to search and keep a list of where they keep stuff, what is due. And what I always do is at the beginning of every semester, I go in, I know I'm not going to work on any of the actual schoolwork. I take like 30 minutes to an hour to just click through the course and explore the course. Oh, what's on this tab? Where did they put here? And it just kind of familiarizes you with that so that when you go to do the coursework, you're not searching for where the discussions are or where the schedule is or trying to find where the reading is.
That's great. You've gotten very savvy at this. I'm glad we found you to share some of this wisdom. So what are you hearing from your friends who, I'm sure you have plenty who have been learning online with you, and then I'm sure you maybe all have an interesting perspective on the transitions that other students are going through. But what are you hearing from your friends who aren't used to learning online? Are there patterns or themes? Kind of what concerns do they have?
The I've been seeing, hearing across the board is just a lot of fear about online classes. There's this, oh my goodness, it's an online class. I'm not used to this. What do I do? Ah! And it's just this totally freaking out about an online class. And it really just getting over that fear, taking the time to sit down, say, okay, this is different, but I'm going to figure out what it is. I'm going to sit down, look at it, and see what did the professor give. I'm going to read over the material, even if you're not getting into doing the work, just kind of skimming over it. I think a lot of students will find that online learning actually isn't maybe that bad, that it's pretty straightforward. And it's nice because unlike in a face-to-face class where you better be listening to the professor because they may not repeat what they said, an online class, you have the opportunity to continually go back. Oh, I don't remember what they asked for. Let me go look at the assignment. Let me read it. Oh, hey, I have that. Wait, I forgot what format they wanted. Oh, I can go back and look at that. I don't have to be constantly taking notes because a lot of times they are written out for you in that format. And I think just taking a deep breath. Okay, online learning may not be my favorite thing, but I do it. So I'm going to take a deep breath, sit down, and I'm going to make this the best that I can do. And I think with doing that, some students may even find they like online learning even better because you can schedule it to your other things in life, and you can really format it to what your learning style is, which is a huge plus, in my opinion.
That's a great point. What are a couple of your favorite courses that you've taken online at UCF? And what do you think maybe made them particularly helpful to you because they were delivered that way?
I've had some really good ones actually at UCF. Our English program is really good online. A lot of professors have experience with the online format, which is nice. My advanced fiction workshop was fun. It was my first time that I had a teacher who had us do a scheduled Skype call. And I was dreading it because I normally don't like video calls. I was super nervous, but he was super down to earth, talking about our short stories we've written, and having that connection with him about it really made you feel like he actually really cared about your stories, your work, and he was there to help you succeed. And I've had that in some of my poetry workshops as well with teachers that were just really encouraging. You can tell, even though you're not face to face, you can tell when a teacher really cares about you as a student.
That's great. So what you mentioned a little bit of the advice that you're giving to students, which is kind of just to stay calm, and maybe you'll like it better than you think you will at first, give it a chance. And I think that's great advice. What advice would you give faculty? You mentioned some of the really great experiences that you've had with professors who are good at taking advantage of Skype and other media. What would you tell faculty who are new to this that might help them meet students' needs better and more quickly?
I think one of the biggest things, which I know other people have been mentioning too, is just because it's an online course does not necessarily mean that the work is easier. So you don't need to give the students 10 more assignments to prove that they did the work. The same amount of assignments that you give in person will work just fine online. We are still here. I promise we're doing the work. If we're not submitting it, maybe you should reach out. But otherwise, I promise you don't need to give us extra work just because of that. And then just because students may have questions, if it's not in the material, just being ready to email. I know some professors that I've had in the past, they actually create a discussion board specifically for questions, which I always thought was a great thing to do because it saves space in the email, so you're not having to check that as much, which is difficult, and responding to 5 students who have the same question. Instead, you cover anyone in the class who might have that same question. So that, I think, is a great resource when they do that, so that someone can go, hey, I noticed a discrepancy. The syllabus says this is due this day. Canvas says it's due another day. Which is it? And then you can respond, and you're responding to everyone in the class who probably has the exact same question. And you don't have to email, type out a response, hello, so-and-so. There's a discrepancy. It's due this day. Okay, next one. Hello. And it just saves that kind of repetition, I think.
That's great. That's great advice. Is there anything else that you think would be helpful to share with students, especially with peer students out there who are kind of navigating this weird disruptive time and, you know, concerned about making sure that they can still succeed in their classes and learn what they need to, but things just look so different? Anything else that they should know?
I think just being patient with yourself. Take the time to learn the course. Say, I know this is new. This is new for me. So I'm going to need to take time to figure out how is the course formatted? How is the teacher doing it? And in the end, especially for students that have been doing face-to-face classes for the majority of the semester, you know this professor now. They're not this foreign entity that wants you to fail. They want you to succeed. So just be patient and don't feel like, oh, I have to get this right away. I have to understand it today. It's okay. You can, there's a bit of a learning curve. And I'm sure professors are understanding, especially when they're dealing with how do I work this? How does this work? They're going to understand that you're trying to figure it out. And you can always reach out to them and ask, or even to your program, we use Canvas, to their tech support and say, hey, I can't find where this is, or how do I attach this audio file that I have to submit? How do I do this? And just being patient and not being afraid to ask for help.
I think that's a great point. A lot of what I've heard you talk about is both being patient with yourself, but also advocating for yourself and just asking and finding what you're not sure about, you know, and not feeling embarrassed about doing that, especially, you know, if it's new and you might seem concerned that, you know, you should already have figured it out quickly. You know, I'm hearing you say that it's okay if you don't know. All you got to do is reach out, and you shouldn't be embarrassed to do that because probably a lot of other people have the same questions that you do.
Yeah, if you're struggling, take some time to look through the course. Always check the course first. Make sure that it isn't answered elsewhere. That's when the teacher might get a little annoyed with you because I already answered this in the syllabus. Go read it. Go check it. And if it's not there, go straight to them. Say, I couldn't find it. You can tell them I couldn't find it. So they know I did try. I tried to find it. I'm not trying to be annoying. I tried to find it, but I couldn't. Can you direct me, or is it not there? And usually the professors will be understanding. Usually they'll help.
Especially if they know that you looked at the syllabus first. I think they'll appreciate that.
Yes. Yes. It's when you really just don't, when it's right there on that week's announcements and you email them a question about that, that's when they get a little, I could be spending this time grading instead of answering your question that's already been answered. And I think that's where also for faculty, doing the discussion group helps, because then one person asks the question, it's answered for everybody. And even if someone does email, you could say, go check the discussion group that is specifically for, hey, I have a question. I'm confused. Does anyone know?
It's great. Thank you so much for being so thoughtful and having accumulated so many insights to share with us. So my last question is a little unrelated, but you mentioned that you're graduating this semester. So I want to know if you have any virtual plans to celebrate that very big achievement.
Not too many, actually. My degree will be mailed to me and I will say, yay, let's go on to the next thing.
Well, congratulations. That is very exciting. And I hope you'll get the chance to celebrate with family in real person and friends before too long. But in the meantime, that's pretty exciting. And thanks for sharing what you've learned along the way with us.
Thank you so much.
All right, thanks everybody for joining us. And if you want to learn more from Courtney or from the UIA, please engage with us on Facebook or Twitter. We'll be happy to contact you and follow up to answer your questions. Thanks everybody, and we'll talk to you later.